tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Thank you for joining us with this edition. My guest today is Mr. Peter Sloan, and we'll get right into Peter, but I wanted to talk to you about Narcan. You please get Narcan. It's free. Get it, put it in your purse, leave it in your car, put it in your bag. It saves lives. If more and more people need to carry Narcan. My guest today, Mr. Peter Sloan, and Peter is in long-term recovery. And if you know Peter, if you don't know Peter, you will get to know Peter, because I'll tell you, he has a story of all stories. So welcome, Peter, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Senator. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Just to let you know that I've got my Narcan right in my glove compartment at all times.
There you go, my friend. So let's talk about Peter Sloan. What's going on with Peter Sloan? Why are you in long-term recovery?
Well, I had a rough go of it in my younger days, John. A lot of alcohol use, a lot of drug use, a lot of bad decision making. Started when, like a lot of people, 13, 14 years old. And progressed over the years. Started doing different drugs, a lot of alcohol. Got into tried a little bit of everything, mostly cocaine though was my drug of choice. Mm-hmm. Kept having jackpots, but then I got one big jackpot in 1990. After 20 years of using, I got involved in some nefarious activities, selling drugs and a few other things, and ended up getting arrested. And ended up going to the ACI and had to get clean in there. I ended up there. I got a 6-year sentence to serve. I was 34 years old when I went in, and I did a little over 2 years. Did about 2 years and 2 months. Mm-hmm. And learned a lot about recovery when I was in there. I had a couple of people help me out. One guy in particular used to come up and visit me and talk to me about recovery. He was in long-term recovery, and he used to bring me literature to read and talk to me. And when I got out, 26 months later, I went to a 6-month halfway house, the Galilee Mission in Narragansett, a great program. I went there for 6 months and started going to meetings on the outside. The guy who came up to visit me became my sponsor, my 12-step sponsor, and just took off from there. Everything, started working on my recovery, doing a lot of meetings, counseling, hanging around sober people, and realized I like this lifestyle. I really like, I like the idea of being clean, not waking up with hangovers, runny noses, being a lot involved in illegal activities.
Right. You are my poster boy for there is recovery, and there is hope in recovery. We met a number of years ago when I was with Council 94, and you were working at the training school.
I was working there.
You were not an inmate, but you have a lot. I have a lot of respect for you because the issues that you just talked about. But you were able to turn your life around.
Yeah.
You went back to school. You became a JPW, juvenile program worker.
Actually, I went from. I actually became a clinical social worker first.
Okay.
I was there. But I was going back to school, and I got my master's degree in social work from Rhode Island College while I was on parole most of the time.
Okay.
And then I applied for the state for a job, and I thought it was a long shot that they would give me the job, but I had good experience, and I think they will. One or two people will take a chance on me, so I got the job there as a clinical social worker and worked my way up from there. Mm.
So, after the JPW and you retired from the state, you have other things in your luggage that we were just talking about. You're on the parole board.
I'm on the parole board.
The first time ever someone who has been incarcerated has been on the parole board, and that is a big accomplishment in itself.
Oh, yeah, that was. I was on parole for close to 4 years when I got out of prison. And that's when I went back to school and got the job. And like you said, I went to work for the state for the training school, and then part of DC, and then I was finished with another division in DCYF as their substance use liaison, which was a great job. And then I retired in about, it was 2021, about a little over 3 years ago. And I was just, relaxing and figuring out what to do in retirement. And then I got a call from the governor's office, asked me if I was interested in being on the state parole board. And I said, I think you might have the wrong person. And they said, no, we were interested in you. So I met with them, and I told them about my background, and so they asked me if I was interested in serving. It was filling a term, and then 3 more years after that. So I did, so I agreed to do it, and I found out I was the first person to ever be on parole, and then be on the parole board. So it was a great honor for me. So I enjoy doing it. I don't always agree with my fellow members, but I do the best. We usually try to work together to come up with a good decision.
Right. How hard is it, Peter, being on the parole board, knowing that just a few years prior to that, you were in front of the parole board?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I went in front of the parole board in 1992, so it was probably 2022. So it was about a 30-year period in between. But I find that I think it's actually good, because I think I can understand when we interview the inmate, whether it's a male or female, young or old. I think I have a pretty good idea if they're serious about recovery, if they're serious about doing well, or if they're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's a good experience. I think it's good to have somebody with some type of experience
Knowledge.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody who has a criminal justice history or substance use history. I serve the role of being a social worker on there, and I think I try to do it the best way I can.
Is it hard?
It's every case is important to me, every one. Whether the person is doing great or really struggling, a lot of mental health issues going on there, a lot of substance use issues going on. Then you mix in the poverty, the housing, the lack of education, lack of employment skills, lack of opportunities when they get out. There's a whole list of stuff that you have to look into. So yeah, it's hard. It is hard. It's tough to make the decision, because you have not only that person's future, but you have the public's. You have taken into account. It's just, if I let this guy out, is the public going to be safe? And I always have a reason for every decision I make. If it's the reason why I want to keep him in or her in, I have a reason, and if I want to let him out, I have reasons for that too. That way, if anybody asks me, I go, this is how it was. And if for some reason the person doesn't do well, I say, well, I let him out because of this, and if I keep him in, it's because of that.
Well, it's good that now we have a little bit of common sense on the parole board anyway. But
I think I think they generally have common sense. People don't agree with every decision we make.
I was just kidding with you, because in today's society, there's not a lot of common sense. But we got common sense right now, because I got to go to break so I can pay the bills.
Okay.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back with Peter Sloan after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Peter Sloan is my guest. He's been in recovery now for 34 years. It's a long time, Peter.
It is half my life.
Yep, half your life, and congratulations. We talked a little bit about some of your history, which is, I'm ready to write a book about you, Peter. But you're also an elected official now. Well,
I'm an appointed official. I'm on the Charlestown Town Council. One of a nice woman named Grace Klinger was on the council, and she passed away after a short illness. And people asked me if I would consider stepping up to fill her spot for the next, I think it was 9 months. I said, absolutely not. I've never been a politician. I've always been committed to community activities, but I've never done anything like that. But they convinced me to fill in. So I've been on there for about a little over 6 months now, and it's been a good experience for me.
Well, not only it's a good experience for you, it's a good experience for the community to know that someone who had trouble in the beginning turned his life around and became the person that you are today. Because it's not, again, you're my poster child for this program, this Hope and Recovery. Because a lot of people say to me when I go out and speak, why do you do this? There's no hope. I have nothing. I have nothing. I'm not going to get anything. And that's not the truth. You have to get it inside, and you got to motivate yourself to go to the next level.
Well,
go back to school. Make yourself a productive individual again. Everybody makes mistakes. You have made mistakes. I have made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's how you handle the mistakes to move your life forward.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you know, and I've made plenty of mistakes, and I think one of the things I've learned in recovery is giving it back, and giving it back to the next person, that next young guy or older guy or man or woman, whoever it might be, who needs help. And I'm not the only one. I mean, my friends in recovery, we all help. We all reach out. We try to help other people who might be struggling, people who are trying to get in, you know, family members, whatever it might be, you know, and that's important. I've got a family member now, and he's got 10 months sober right now. He's doing great, you know. He's just, you know, we do stuff all the time, meetings, we go do different things, and all my, you know, so many of my friends are in recovery now. It's just like, it's my lifestyle. I love it.
It's like a community.
Yeah, you know, it is. But it's an open community. We let people in, and we welcome people. We want people to come in.
Right.
Help them get into treatment. You know, there's a lot of good treatment options out there, and meetings, and you know, if they need a therapist, try to find them whatever it is they need. We try to help them with.
I want to bring it back to when we first met at the training school. A lot of young kids don't have the life that they should have as young kids, and they get in trouble. They get into gangs. They get into all sorts of mischief, you know. When you worked there, what was your goal?
Well, you know, especially when I was a social worker and then a manager, and even as administrator, my thing was like, let me try to get this kid some skills to try to, so when they re-enter society, one, that they won't be a danger to other people, but two, they have a chance of success. You know, because we don't know where we're going to put them. You know, when they go back out, sometimes they have to put them back in the same position when they left.
Right.
So what we try to do is give them some skills. We had a good school there. We have different programming options, which I always try to get more of, whether it be post-secondary education, hands-on stuff, and then try to get them so when they get out, they learn skills while they're in there. Get up in the morning, learn how to get up and make your bed.
Yeah, right.
Learn how to do proper hygiene. Some kids had no idea how to do hygiene when they got in there. And a lot of kids did have substance use issues, even at a young age. They develop it because sometimes they didn't have good role models at home. Maybe they had one parent, maybe they had no parents, maybe they had both parents, whatever. But there was always a chance that there was substance use involved. So we didn't try to teach them about that too. Yeah. But we really just didn't. We wanted them, we wanted them to try to succeed and then not to be a threat to the rest of the community. Now on the parole board, years later, I'll see these kids, and of course the first thing, they'll say Pete, and I'm like, well, you got to call me Mr. Sloan. I'm on the parole board now, and they first they ask me if I'm still playing basketball, of course, and then from there, I try to help them, and most of them have a good chance to succeed, and they've struggled a little bit, but never give up on anybody. That's my thing. You just do not give up.
One of the things too that I try to tell different individuals about is about these kids going back into the same environment, because if you go back into the same environment, there's nothing but bad things are going to happen. You got to get them out of the environment that they were in. There was statistics brought out a few weeks ago. 18,000 kids are being brought up by their grandparents now, because either both parents are incarcerated or both parents have passed away on this overdose crisis, or
absolutely,
or just because.
Yeah.
You know, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's difficult with these kids, especially young kids, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, in the prime of making that turn to high school, and there's no one there to guide them. That's difficult.
I was helping just recently a woman. She was in her early 60s, and she was raising her granddaughter who was about to enter middle school, because the parents were because their substance use, they had no contact with the kid at all. It's not easy being that age and trying to raise a kid, and it's not easy for the kid to be in that environment.
Right.
But we do the best we can. Yeah.
Now, what is your thought about obviously you got politics, you got parole board, you got a private practice, you have pickleball.
I got I'm also the president of the board of directors for the Warm Center in Westerly.
Okay.
So I'm big into dealing with people who don't have a place to live right now. They're looking for some try to help them out, find a place. We have the Warm Shelter in Westerly. We have the Welcome House in Peacedale, and we also have a family shelter up right on the grounds of URI that we have right now. So we try to get as much, and then in the winter we try to find temporary shelter for them. But it's very difficult. Most people go home and they have a nice warm bed to sleep in. Well, there's a lot of people out there that don't have that warm bed.
Yeah.
So that's another passion of mine. And people tend to say, well, they should be able to do that. Well, it's not always that as easy as just like, toughen it up and get a job.
Right.
People have circumstances.
So. No one wants to wake up in the morning and say they want to be homeless. But we're going to take a break. Right. I want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back with Mr. Sloan right after these messages.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Peter Sloan has been my guest. Well, a gentleman with 34 years in recovery. Welcome, Peter, and thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you coming on.
It's a
multitude of different things that you do, but one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Peter, obviously the homeless shelter, the warm shelter that you have down in Westerly is a big deal because no one wants to wake up in the morning and say, listen, today's the day I'm going to become homeless. No one wants to do that. We have a crisis. We need to work on the crisis, and we got to get it minimized because we got to stop. But I want to talk to you a little bit about, you also have a private practice.
Sure. I've been seeing clients since I got my license back in '96, even when I worked for the state. But when I retired, I started seeing a few more. And, I try to do too many. I try to do maybe eight sessions a week, something like that. I probably have maybe 15 clients right now. I mix. I have some, youth, adolescents, and then I got some young adults, and I got some older people. Most of them a lot of them have legal problems, so I'm good at that because of my own experience, and a lot of them have substance problems because I know a lot about that, and a lot of them have mental health issues too. And it's good. I enjoy doing it. I only take clients who want help. If you're just here because the court orders you, no, you can go somewhere else for that. If you really want to get help, I'll be glad to work with you. So. And I really, it's and it helps support me in my retirement.
Right. Well, and in recovery too, because it's all put together into one box. But Peter, I want to thank you for coming on today. Really appreciate it. You got a multitude of different tasks that you do, and
it's a pleasure coming on here with you.
I wish you luck November 5th in your election.
Oh, thank you very much.
So. Next week, my guest is Brian Mello, and Brian is a therapist. He's a multitude of different things. So thank you for joining us today. You've been watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll see you next week.